Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
So on Friday, I was talking about getting organized and how I sort of was listening to some podcasts and they were talking about organization, and it was something that I had been thinking about. Well, over the weekend I started using an organizational tool. That tool is called Wunderlist, and it's spelled Wunderlist. And it's a cross-platform organizational tool, so you can create folders. Up under those folders, you can add various lists. You can have subtask for your list. You can have subtask for your task. And so far, I really like it. It's cross-platform, so there's a web app. Which means that you don't have to download anything to anything. You access it through the browser. You can download an app for your cell phone. There's also a application that you can download onto your computer, laptop, tablet, PC, whatnot. And I've not used the downloaded thing for the computer, but I have used the web app and the application for the phone, and so far I really like it. And so I started making some goals, and right now I have a couple of 1-month goals. I have a couple of 1-year goals, and I have a folder for 6-month goals, but that currently sits empty. So I actually, it's kind of funny, one of the goals that I have in my 1-month goals is to finish making 6-month and 1-year goals. And then I have a couple of other things that I have as items to do in the 1 month. A couple of them are promote a fundraiser that's coming up on February 7th. I also have finished creating the new music bed donut for this show, and the donut is pretty much done. So I'm using some radio jargon here. So a music donut or a radio donut is where you have music at the beginning, or in this case, there's the intro where it says, there's the guy that says peace, love, liberty, radio, and there's the drum beats in between, and then there's music, and then there's nothing, and that's where I'm talking. So right now I'm talking in the whole of the donut, and then at the end of this segment there's music, and then there's the little brief pause. That's where commercials go, and then there's music again, and then a blank spot. So that's the donut, where you have the intro and the outro. So that is done. I just have to do some stuff for a couple of the commercial spots that are to be inserted to make sure that those are all the same length, because I've got some people doing some rejoiners for me. The rejoiner, if you're listening to the version up on SoundCloud, you're hearing those. If you're listening to the fans-only commercial-free version, you are not hearing those rejoiners. So the rejoiners are where right now I've got the epic movie voice guy that says you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, or you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio online at fppradio.com. So those are the rejoiners, where it's like that brief little tag reminding people what they're listening to and a website. And so I've got some people cutting some of those for me. Need to make sure those are all the same length, throw them at the end of the commercial things that I have. And I've got this whole spreadsheet, so like it's a very efficient process to where I don't have to think, okay, what commercials am I running today? So I've got commercial. Here's commercial group A. Here's commercial group B, C, D, E, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got X, Y, Z, or W, X, Y, Z. So I've got this whole formula laid out. So like it's drag and drop sort of stuff. But a couple of the things, I just need to make sure that everything's the same length. That way, when it's done, the show will always be the same length, and I don't have to add seconds here, subtract seconds there, etc., etc. So that's one of the things on that 1 month. And for the 1 year goals, I've got a couple of things. I'll just go ahead and tell you what my 1 year goals are, and I will review these in the end of December to make sure that I have either met or not met these goals. So I have maintain weight under 175 pounds, which I'm very proud that I have, since the end of February last year, dropped over 145 pounds. I was, or nearly 145. I was 317 pounds at the end of February last year. Weighed in today at 174.5 pounds. So that's 142.5 pounds. And I've fluctuated between 173 and 175 over the last couple of weeks. And I would still like to, get rid of some of this body fat that I'm holding, but I'm happy with what my weight is. I'm just not necessarily happy with the way my body looks at the moment. But, I'm still getting back into shape, and I would say that I'm definitely in the best shape that I've been since I graduated high school. And that was nearly 20 years ago. And that's something that I'm very happy about. I'm very proud of. And I want to maintain this achievement that I've obtained. And the other goal in this 1 year goal is to wind up publishing 10 more books during the year. Now, this is not me saying I'm going to write 10 books in the year, because I have a publishing company. And what I've been doing over the last couple of years is I started up a division of the publishing company called FPP Classics, where I'm republishing things that are in the public domain. So I'm taking stuff that no one owns a copyright on, and I'm making that available in print form. A lot of the stuff has already been available in print form, and I'm just giving people another option. So I've got a goal to publish a total of 10 books this year, and that should not be a problem. I would have put 12, but there are times where I'll wait 6 weeks before doing one. I've not yet done anything towards getting a book published in January, so then I'd have to rush, and I don't like rushing on things. I like making sure that I've got time to do it. I'm giving myself time, even though when I sit down to do a task, I generally go through that task very rapidly. But nonetheless, I don't want to put an unnecessary burden on myself of, okay, you have to make sure that you do this by the end of here, because I've got all of these other things that are going on this time of year. Because the New Hampshire legislature is in session, and pretty much every Tuesday and Thursday, or at least one of those 2 days, if not both of those days, I'm up at the State House testifying on various legislation, trying to prevent them from doing horrible things or convincing them to do something that would undo a horrible thing. And so I've got, in this wonder list, I actually have notes on things to go speak in favor or speak against in the legislature. And I'll jump into news. I'm not going to talk all about Darryl this show, but I'll jump into some news here in just a moment. Stay tuned.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davy Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP. FPP.
You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
So I know that I've talked previously about the Free State Project, and well, we're nearing, I say we because I am a participant of the Free State Project, we are nearing the 20,000 mark. That's the goal of the Free State Project, to find 20,000 liberty lovers to sign the statement of intent saying that they intend to, within 5 years of the Free State Project reaching its goal, they intend to move to New Hampshire to exert the fullest practical effort towards the creation of a society where the maximum role of government is the protection of life, liberty, and property. And, well, right now it's over 97.5% of the way to the goal. It's almost at 98%. We're less than 500 people. I think it's actually about 420 people away from the goal of 20,000. And the Free State Project has been garnering some media attention recently. There's a story here from the San Francisco Gate that I want to share with you from actually just over a week ago. So the numbers that they report here might not be completely accurate, because I think they might talk about a percentage in here somewhere. But nonetheless, let me share this story from the San Francisco Gate. They say New Hampshire's Free State Project founder says he believes the group will soon get its 20,000th pledge from like-minded libertarians vowing to move to the Granite State and work to limit government's interference in their life. Founder Jason Sorens does not believe all will follow through on the non-binding agreement, but said the 2,000, or rather said about 2,000, have already moved to the state to join the movement so far. The Concord Monitor, which is the, I think, the second largest newspaper in the state, the Concord Monitor reported that Sorens estimate, or rather, I hate the way when they, and this is, so this is me as sort of a writer and a journalist and news reporter, news aggregator person, making a complaint about the way people write stuff. When you're writing something and then at the end of the sentence you put comma, this place reported or that place reported, it's really difficult for the reader, especially if somebody is trying to read it and report on it as like a news sort of thing. What I do when I'm writing articles and reporting on stuff is I will put that at the beginning of the sentence. That way people know, hey, I'm citing a source here, because otherwise it just seems so weird to where you have this full sentence, and also they capitalized the word the, which threw my brain off as well. But it's just so weird to have a full sentence and then comma, the blank reported. If you're going to do that, then put according to and then the name of your source. Again, just, my gripe about the way people write stuff. But nonetheless, I digress, and I continue with the article. Sorens estimates there will be about 6,000 to 8,000 Free Staters living in New Hampshire in 5 years. And I would say that that's probably a good estimate, because I honestly do not think that more than half of the people that have signed the Statement of Intent will actually wind up moving to New Hampshire. I think a lot of people that have not signed the Statement of Intent will move to New Hampshire because of the Free State Project, but they technically will not be Free Staters, nor will they be Free State Project participants. They might possibly be able to be friends of, but that's a slight difference of designation, according to the FSP. Sorens, who has a doctorate in political science from Yale University and lectures at Dartmouth College, launched the movement in 2001. He said 18 Free Staters are currently serving in the New Hampshire State House of Representatives. The group's annual Liberty Forum next month in Manchester will feature a video link with former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden. Snowden, you may recall, leaked millions of documents about government surveillance to a UK newspaper in 2013. He has been living in Russia under a grant of asylum and faces charges in the U.S. for leaking details of the once secret programs. Free State Project President Carla Garrick confirmed the speaking engagement at their convention, which runs February 18th through the 21st. She said the topic has not yet been decided. And speaking of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, I will be there, and I'm actually taking part in an event there, actually a couple of events, but I will be giving the award, or one of the awards, in the Liberty in Action Awards ceremony. I will not say which award I'm giving, and I also don't know who the winner is going to be, but I'm actually honored to wind up being the person that gets to give out this award. So that should be very interesting. And, hopefully it will be a good event. And then there's also going to be, not officially part of the Liberty Forum, but in the hotel is going to be the New Hampshire Liberty Party's annual convention. I'm one of the co-chairs of that party. And that convention will be taking place somewhere in the hotel, I think possibly in the lobby. And that's going to be a smallish gathering, but that's also taking place. You can find out more about the New Hampshire Liberty Party at nhliberty.info. Now back to the article from the San Francisco Gate. They conclude that Garrick told the Concord Monitor she's not disappointed that more signers have not yet moved to New Hampshire. She said it takes time to sell a house in another state and find a job in New Hampshire, saying, quote, honestly, I'm glad it's taken its time because people have laid a lot of groundwork. I think that it is actually going to benefit the movement as a whole. And I would say that, I as well think it's probably a good thing that people did not sign up as rapidly as what Jason originally envisioned when he came out with the idea for the Free State Project back in 2001. He estimated that it would take 5 to 10 years tops for the 20,000 signers, and part of that was based on the projections of how long it would take to get to the 1,000 and the 5,000, and he was about accurate on the 5,000, I believe. But then there was the vote on which state that happened at the 5,000 mark, and that deterred some people. That definitely deterred me for a while, because at the time I first heard about the Free State Project, I was living in Pennsylvania, and I already hated the cold, and, well, why would I want to move somewhere colder, especially when nothing has happened yet? And so then I didn't really think about the Free State Project at all for several years, and then I was doing something on MySpace one day, probably, and came across a video, and then, started watching these videos, started watching Ridley reports, seeing various things that were happening, and this was back in 2009, and I was like, oh, wow, I really like the idea of this thing, and I think I might try doing something, and, so it wound up working out to where, groundwork was already there, people were getting stuff done, people were making media, and that sparked my interest again. I officially signed the Declaration of Intent in 2010. I got my official participant signer number last night. I had it somewhere but lost it. I was signer number 9,910, signed February 24th of 2010. So coming up on 6 years of me being a signer, I moved in 2012. So, yes, there's a lot of work that's been done. There's a lot of work still needing to be done.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
Fiend Phone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of Fiend Phone right now at fiendphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve Fiend Phone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to fiendphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's fiendphone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
Fiend Phone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world? Then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. Spend-A-Bit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spend-A-Bit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit, all one word, spendabit.fppradio.com. So something that I've not talked about on this show is the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Now, there's a lot of information about this. I've covered some of this on the daily 5-minute newscast that I do, FPP Radio News, but I have not talked about it on this show. And there's actually a call from the Michigan Libertarian Party where they put out a press release a couple days ago calling for an independent investigation into the water crisis there in Flint. Now, if you're not familiar with this thing, a couple of years ago, Flint had some emergency town manager person that was appointed by the governor, I believe, that was running the town of Flint, or the city of Flint. I'm not sure if it's officially a city or a town. There's 100,000 people that live there, but I've seen stuff referring to it as a town. But that could just be a colloquialism. It might actually be, officially a city. But I digress. The municipality, it's definitely a municipality. The municipality was being run by some state-appointed manager. The state-appointed manager said, well, instead of getting our water from Detroit, let's get it from the river over here. And, well, there's been a lot of elevated lead levels in the water. A lot of people have gotten sick. I believe several people have died. And now everybody's pointing fingers of, well, it's you, it's not us, it's got to be somebody else. And then there's people saying, like, this is what happens when you deregulate, or this is what happens when, government's not involved. But the entire thing was created because of government. And let me now read the press release from the Libertarian Party of Michigan, and I might interject in here sporadically. The press release begins, it has been stated that the Flint water crisis is Governor Snyder's Katrina. Hurricanes are natural disasters, though, which can be predicted and reaction plans can be formulated. preparations could have been made to mediate the damage, but the hurricane could not have been avoided. This is not the case in Flint, Michigan. There is nothing natural about the water crisis, and it was completely avoidable. There's plenty of blame to go around, as detailed in numerous articles. There were several areas over the years where all levels of government were responsible for decisions that led to this disaster. The Flint City Council voted to leave the Detroit water system and use Flint River water until a new source was ready, and the emergency manager approved it. The Michigan DEQ, I believe that's the Department of Environmental Quality, that they don't specify here in this press release, but I did read this acronym somewhere else a couple of days ago. The Michigan DEQ was inadequate in addressing the situation in a timely manner. A federal EPA employee sounded the alarm, but the only official response was further dialogue with the DEQ. What is apparent is that the government at every level failed to protect the public. It took people outside the government to prove what was going on, and yet the answer is to bring in the federal government, who already knew about the situation and did nothing, and the National Guard to help remediate the problem. I think they mean remedy the problem. Will maintaining government control of water fix the problem when the government let this happen in the first place? I say no. But I digress, and they ask a follow-up question. Would private companies have done better? They answer by saying maybe not, but at least they would be held more accountable. And that's the key thing, is that, you know, a lot of times people that advocate for private solutions will say, well, the private sector could have done this a lot better. And maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. But the key here is that private actors would be held accountable. And that's not the case with government actors, with so-called public sector things. There is no accountability, or very little accountability. I continue with the article, or rather the press release. They put that being private companies, they would be more inclined to provide better service because you could leave them and go elsewhere. Leaving government utility programs is not easy, as there are few other options. It is time we began having a more accountable system of services in all aspects of programs offered by the government. This can be done through the free market. Edwardsville Water Corporation of Georgetown, Indiana, is one example of a private company providing an alternative option to government-controlled utility monopolies as they maintain a transparent reporting practice. It would be outstanding if governments were held to the same accountability as private industries, but they are not. The government failed to provide safe water. Had a private company done this, they would likely be facing financial retribution, if not criminal charges. That is because an outside agency would be doing the investigation. If those companies went bankrupt, only the owners and investors would suffer. And that's another key difference between public actors and private actors. With a private company, somebody does something wrong, then that company is not investigating itself. If Brink's Security somehow lost a truckload of money, or if Wells Fargo lost a truckload of money, then Wells Fargo or Brinks would not say, we're going to investigate ourselves and figure out what went wrong. Don't worry, we promise that we'll get to the bottom of this. No. The people whose money they lost would wind up getting an outside agency to investigate, figure out if there was negligence, if there was something criminal that happened, and if whatever criminal thing that happened, was it something that could have been prevented by better practices on behalf of the company that lost their money. But with government actors, with so-called public sectors, the public sector gets to investigate itself, determine, oh yeah, we goofed up, but don't worry, we'll handle it. With private, yeah, they might investigate themselves, but there's also that level of accountability to where somebody else can say, no, you royally screwed up. You have to pay restitution to the people that wound up being harmed, you have to restore their money. You have to do whatever it is to make them whole, and then compensate them for their loss of the item for the time. Let me read this final paragraph here. The Libertarian Party of Michigan calls for an independent investigation of the events leading up to this health crisis. Any official found to be negligent should be fired and prosecuted. Don't forget, every Wednesday I answer your questions, AMA at FPPRadio.com.